Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, well, we're glad you're here. Each Wednesday, I'm here with you talking to myself about things that weigh on my mind and heart, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust both our perspectives as you listen. The more people I meet and the more places I go, the more I realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of your life that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at me are for rising to the bait. The thought that I had today, I deal with a lot of frustration in my life. I think that that's pretty much just an easy way of saying something that we all can relate to. Whether it's frustration at work or things at home aren't going exactly as planned, or perhaps the budget isn't meeting all of the expectations that you had set for it. The money just isn't quite stretching as far, or maybe the things that you were hoping to get with the money that you are earning with your time and your effort, that list of things gets shorter or more shallow. And that is something it's really difficult to deal with because not only do we get frustrated with things that are not actively coming for us, we also have to deal with personalities on the internet, whether they're people we know or people we don't, that may or may not be looking to start a fight just from boredom or from a lack of human connection, hoping to find something better out in cyberspace versus what they have in the room with them physically at the moment. I honestly don't know. I do know that in this morning's journal entry, I was looking for a way to release this frustration, this anger that I continue to feel. And I think that part of that is by not rising to the bait. And part of that, the second half of that is to feed myself on my own terms. Meaning whenever I sit down to a meal, I choose what I want to eat. There is a certain part of me, a certain bit of my raisin that tells me, clean your plate. You don't want to waste any food. Wasting food is a sin. And there's very much a part of me that still feels very, very strongly in exactly that way. And there's a part of me that knows that not everything that gets on my plate is going to be good for me in the whether it's the amount that was served or the sauce that comes with it, or honestly the quality of the meat or the bread that was put on the plate for me to consume. And I have to be very mindful of what I put into my body. I'm working really hard to get in great shape. We've got a trip planned to Brazil in February for a carnival, and I want to make sure that those pictures look on point. Okay. So I'm also on tour at the moment, which means that we're eating every meal at a restaurant. Okay. So you make your choices. You have to make sure that what goes into your body isn't necessarily everything that was served. You eat the things that serve you. You consume the things that are going to build and make you the physical specimen you want to be. And it isn't much different whenever you're talking about things that you nourish yourself with emotionally or spiritually. Okay. It's one of those things where someone may put something on my plate, they'll tell me terrible things. In my job on social media, some people have the most ruthlessly awful things to say, thinking that there isn't someone on the other end of it. I mean, that's fair. I know that there are a lot of people out there. If you get hundreds of comments on a post a day, the chances are very slim that they will see yours and respond to yours individually. Well, I'm not to that point. Yeah, there are people who are watching my social media, and I'm talking about my professional, not necessarily my personal. And some of the things they say there are just absolutely terrible. And I can't help thinking, if I were physically in the room with you and you were to say that to me, what would be your expectation of my reaction? And I think that word is very important and interesting, and also very telling, I guess, of what it is I need to be doing moving forward to accomplish the things that I have set as goals in my life. I don't rise to the bait of someone saying something like, Honestly, some people have told me that I would be better off if I weren't on this earthly plane, or they hope that I am not capable of fathering children. And the way people come across with these comments, it's really I I can't help feeling as though this person thinks that they're talking to the computer and not an actual person on the other side of that other screen. And so I continue to think, okay, because of that, do I want to consume this and make this a part of my daily meal? Whether we're talking about physical, emotional, spiritual, anything like that, or do I want to take the opportunity to be kind to this person? And that's a struggle. I know it is. And we hear about this, especially if you're a Christian. If you've read much of the Bible, it's turn the other cheek, it's kill them with kindness, it's those kinds of things. And there's a part of me that absolutely does want to be that person. Why? Well, the chances are very good if someone feels comfortable enough saying something so harsh to another human being, even though they may not see it as saying that to someone else, that they're in a place of scarcity, especially when we talk about things like love, affection, uh, feelings of belonging. If they feel comfortable saying something like that to me or to the personality they think they're addressing, I can't help feeling as though that person is probably maybe going through something a little bit more difficult than I am at the moment. And instead of rising to the bait, what I want to make sure that I do is see past the first few layers to see that that could be someone that is having a difficult time. And I want to acknowledge that. I don't want to accuse them of it. What I want to do is answer in such a way that it would call their actions into question, their words into a spotlight of sorts, a warm one, to say, "Are you okay?" That seems like a very personal or harsh response, disproportionately unkind to what you've seen on my social media. What would drive a person to respond in such a manner? Do you need to speak to someone? Have you thought about talking to someone in your family about what you're going through? Now, most of these people are abject strangers, people I don't know at all. And asking that question, I think, would probably be just as jarring as whenever they suggest that I do something extreme to my personal well being and perhaps cut my journey short in a more permanent way. I want to make sure I'm very careful with my vernacular here. I don't know what is and isn't acceptable, but they have alluded to the fact that perhaps I would need a casket and a mortician, and I would be better off with their services than to continue with the content that I put into the world. It's like, wow, okay. That seems extra much for the kind of thing that we have been putting out there. Again, this isn't me crying for help or looking for pity. It's me saying, what drives a person to do something like that, right? What has happened in your life to get you to this point where you are willing and ready to say something like that to a person you've never met? It it's shocking. And I can choose to take it of many ways. One would be, okay, this person's just coming for blood. I have to defend myself. Not particularly. They know where I am in a larger sense. I rarely stay in one spot for very long, so it's not as if I feel threatened. That's one way. Number two, I can laugh it off. I can make a joke of it. I can, number three, sort of feign misunderstanding. I don't really get what you're saying here. Or I can lead it down another way where what they've said can be construed in a few other ways that doesn't end in, a dirt nap for one James Edward Bullard. Okay. It just continues to be one of those things where I think that the larger picture leads the person who wants to be a larger human being, grander, better, smarter, kinder. to reach out to that person and say, "Hey, I appreciate the comment, and I'm curious if you're okay." Because a response like that in relation to what it is we're talking about seems disproportionate. Maybe you should speak to someone. And on the other side of that, what does it do to me? And that's what we're talking about today as far as rising to bait. I don't want to rise to bait. Bait, just by its definition, is not food, it's a trap, right? It's the tasty morsel that's put on the end of a hook to grab a fish. It is the tasty morsel that's put underneath the box that's propped up by the stick that's connected to a string that leads off camera, that's gonna be the person that yanks it once the desired prey has entered the snare. I don't want to be trapped by something like that. What I do want to do is acknowledge it for what it is, see the barb in it, and ask the person at the other end of the string, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?" Now, that metaphor works on some levels and it does on others because clearly your prey is not going to ask you those kind of questions. And something that people may want from me, from anyone, from another human being is just a reaction, good, bad, or indifferent. It comes down to one of those things like no such thing as bad PR. Okay. Yes, and there's such a thing as hurt feelings. There's such a thing as bad will, ill will, I think is what I prefer to say there. And I don't think that is malicious necessarily. I think that some people in life are literally starving to death for that connection, and they will take that any way they can get it. Good, bad, harsh, loving, even if it's a snap and retort. I think that something is better than nothing whenever you deal with people in that sort of situation. And I think that the way that I respond to something like that, when I do respond to things like that in a kind manner or with a question, 99 times out of 100, it gets a response with an apology. And someone will immediately recognize that they are now speaking to a human being and not just an internet platform. They're speaking to a person with feelings and dreams and a person that has a mother and a father and maybe a partner or children. And I can't tell you how quickly that entire thing starts to roll away. That persona of anger, that shell of harshness just starts to dissolve. And I'm talking like cotton candy in warm water dissolve. It disappears almost immediately, followed by an apology and an explanation. And there's almost immediately this beautiful white underbelly of vulnerability that someone offers to you, where a moment ago they were suggesting something very final. Now they're looking for a way to open up to you to rationalize why they said that in the first place. Okay. Does it make it any less hurtful? No. Does it explain it a little more clearly? Yes. Am I strong enough and smart enough to understand that? Whenever I see something like that, that this is coming from a place of pain in this person who's reaching out to someone, they just need to maybe pass off that feeling of mistreatment to someone else? Yeah, I am both strong enough and smart enough to recognize that, and I can take it. Now, if that continues, if you put it out there and you try to meet them in the middle and that sort of harsh language and ill will continues, light them up. Light them up if you feel like it. Or honestly, I think what they're looking for 9 times out of 10 is a fight. If you really want to affect some sort of change, ignore it or acknowledge it briefly and just walk away from the conversation. I think that is much more attention getting from someone who needs that interaction and then meeting them where they are at the level they are. I have a terrible habit of that. I really do. That's why rising to the bait was the theme of today's episode. When someone comes at me with a lot, I mean, like hot out the gate, I never, pardon me, I am working at being better at letting them finish whatever it is that they need to get off their chest, taking just a moment to digest it instead of reacting to it, immediate, knee jerk, ready to meet them at whatever color or volume they're coming at me, and maybe top it or make that color just a little bit more intense. Oh, you want to come after me, do you? Well, buddy boy, you have picked the right day and the right huckleberry. Let me just gird these loins before I smack some shit out of you. What is that going to do? Who's that going to help? And then, especially as a Southern gentleman, there's this question of honor or pride or yada, yada, yada. And I want to change that channel. I sure do. Because, yes, those things are incredibly important. And I also want to make sure that you know that it's also one of those things like words are words. Nobody's thrown a punch. Nobody's come after anybody's family. Nobody, if all of these things are the case, meet them. Be the bigger human being. Be the stronger human being to let that person lash out with the pain that they are very clearly dealing with. And then look at them. Hey, you feel better now? I think we'd all be stunned to watch their reaction as they melt like that cotton candy in warm water. I think people deal with a lot more hassle than they necessarily need to. My friends and I, we talk about this a lot. If you've got most of your creature comfort met, I'm talking about very basic human needs here. I'm talking about like healthcare and place to live and food on the table, reliable transportation, good job, steady income. There's the laundry list goes on and on. I think people prioritize them differently depending on who they are, where they are, and their situations. If those things are met, I think it's much, much easier to see someone hurting and offer to be a help than it is to meet them where they are and try to fight with them in the mud. I think it's so much more important to pick what it is that you consume and also to choose what it is you decide to put on the plates of others. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Rising to the bait, yeah. Oh God, it feels so good. Wow. Especially for me a lot of times because I got a real good vocabulary. I've got a quick wit and I have a very loud voice. And those three things are invaluable when it comes down to being confrontational in something like that. What I want to do moving forward, because I am a loving, caring, feeling, evolved human, or continue to try to be and focus my intention on being more of that person, is to understand when someone comes at me with that perhaps they are the weaker, quote unquote, opponent. And then I want to remind myself that they are not my opponent. They're someone who's hurting. And that I am uniquely qualified and I have the desire to help them past that. I am strong enough, I am smart enough, I am kind enough to see what they're doing has nothing to do at all, period, with me, James Bullard. It has everything to do with the fact that they are hurting and they do not have the capability of processing it, or they do, but I think maybe the fear, the anger, the frustration, the hopelessness, the helplessness, whatever you choose to fill that blank, has become so great, has become so strong, that even though they may be a very strong individual, they need sublimation. They need to get rid of it. They need to put it down. And sometimes they can't place it. They have to hurl it at you as hard as they can. Now the question is, do you let it hit you? And do you have a reactionary moment? Do we have a reactionary moment to this acting out moment? Or do we, as loving, kind, gracious, strong, well read, emotionally intelligent people, see what's coming at us at this speed, at this force, and brace ourselves for the impact and try to put our hands up to catch it instead of letting it hit us somewhere it can hurt us? Do we rise to the bait? Do we get caught on that hook and reeled in by that string? Or do we see it for what it is? Do we choose nourishment on our own terms? And once we've chosen and filled our own plate, do we put enough on that plate so that we can share it with someone else so they don't have to worry about trapping us, but can share in our abundance so that they don't have to worry about trapping what they need, but can instead ask for it? And that I, as sometimes a stranger, can help them learn how to ask for it from the people in their own lives so that maybe they can get that closer to home in more abundant and reliable supply, right? See how much better that is? See how we can all level up by just taking that moment to understand what it is that's really happening? This is not a personal attack. This is a cry for help. If it continues to happen, then we can reevaluate the situation. If it's one of those things where someone immediately recognizes that they have tried repeatedly to get this kind of help, this sort of reaction from someone somewhere, and that they've actually found another human being on the other end of the line, immediately they start to apologize for their behavior, for acting out, for lashing out, and they start to learn. They start to rely more heavily on the things they know to be more healthy mechanisms for getting this attention, this affection that they need. They need it. I'm not going to discount that at all. I'm absolutely going to acknowledge the fact that this is a need. It is a human need. And if you can't get it from the people in your life that are, quote unquote, supposed to be supplying it, we live in a day and age where you can get that pretty much anywhere. If it's not from the person you're talking to, there will be others who are watching or listening to the conversation who will 100% chime in. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we look at it. We evaluate it carefully. It deserves care. It deserves time. It does. And I know we're in a, gosh, I know we're busy. Okay, I get that. I'm not saying devote an entire day, a week, any of that to this. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. What I am suggesting is that another human life deserves at least a moment for us to say, oh, okay, I get it. Okay. And before I come back at somebody with the same energy they're coming at me that has teeth and claws and blood dripping from both, I just want to acknowledge the fact that this person is probably acting out, and this is maybe not the typical way they do this. Great. This seems a little bit more everybody else than it does me at the moment. I think it's, I want to make sure that I give very clear examples of who it is I'm talking about here that comes to us with these sorts of feelings or reactions, so that we, as people who want to radiate joy and comfort and understanding and inclusion, that we know that when someone comes at us like that, that it is not something they have done in order to hurt us. More than anything, I think it's just someone trying to project that hurt so someone will see it and care enough to help. Help isn't that big a deal. It really isn't. Most times it's just listening a little bit and asking the right questions so someone can kind of unload a little bit of burden. I think that a lot of people are dealing with a lot of burden right now. I think a lot of people deal with a lot of burden regularly. And that's why they reach out to people they may not know so well on the internet to say, hey, help. The people in my life don't feel as though they're really given two hoots. And what I said was harsh and awful. I'm just tired of being invisible. I'm tired of being an afterthought. I'm tired of being no thought at all. Okay. Well, now I'm thinking about you because you've come at me pretty hard. So let's talk about it. What's shaking, bacon? Humor works wonders. I'm talking about real humor. I'm not talking about sarcasm. I'm not talking about condescension. I'm talking about genuine humor because sometimes that's all it takes. People come at you with just, oh, the most abrasive language. And you can either meet them there, which only continues to add to a fire that has no fuel to burn. It's literally just a flare out. And the more they try to burn brightly, the more it drains them. Instead, why don't we try to cool it off just a little bit? For whatever reason, all of a sudden, I'm thinking of a beautiful hot bowl of chili. I'm talking about the good stuff, like that white chicken chili, and it's got like really finely grated mozzarella all over the top, but it is piping hot. I mean, it is so hot, and you just can't wait. Like that mozzarella is melted, and you put your big old spoon into it, and it just stretches from the bowl to your mouth. But you know for gosh dang certain, if you try to put that in your mouth right now, it is going to burn every taste bud off your mouth. It's going to scorch the roof of your mouth. It's going to hurt the gums. It's going to blister for Jesus. And you just don't want that, even though you know it's going to be delicious. You've got to let it cool down. That interaction is the nourishment that you can get from that bowl of chili. And it's cold outside, y'all. Winter is here. And before we try to make that connection, that interaction, we've got to let that thing cool down. So what do? We pucker up and we blow on it. And then check it. How much more steam is coming off this thing? All right, less than before, but it's still not ready to go in your face hole yet, okay? Again. And you give it a little test. And that, yes, it is still piping hot, but you don't want it stone cold either. You want to make sure that you eat it whenever it is at prime temp. And that's where we are. We took a minute. We assessed the situation. Did we add more heat to it? No. What did we do? We met it with gentleness and a little bit of apprehension. We learned more about the situation, and then we both got something out of it. Okay? Exactly. I think most people want to be like that bowl of chili. We're just going to keep rolling with this metaphor. They want to be nourishing to somebody. They want to be important. They want to be delicious. They want to be savored. Maybe not everybody's a chili fan. All right, so we got to season it a little bit until it's somebody else's taste. Or here's the thought, the person that doesn't like chicken chili just leaves that bowl on the side for somebody else who will. Great. Amazing. Not everybody's going to love chicken chili. All right. Super. If they do, let them blow on it. Oh, it took a little bit of a naughty turn. I ain't afraid of it. It's great. It is one of those things where I want to make sure that you know we don't meet fire with fire. We meet fire with water. We meet fire with stone. We meet fire with something that can be improved by fire. We don't add more to it to let it get out of control. We use it as a tool. It's so useful. It's beautiful. It makes a home warmer. It cooks food. It tempers steel. There's so many things that fire can be used if you know how to use it properly. Whenever you continue adding more heat to it, it can get out of control and quickly. And so I just want to continue to ask us, instead of meeting it with matches or gasoline, let's meet it with something that it can use to sort of meet in the middle to make sure that everybody walks away feeling useful and improved. That's it. I love these half hours we get to spend together, or whatever time it is that we've got going for these episodes. I hope you're having an amazing Wednesday. Or if you're not listening to this on the day it debuts, I hope you're having a fantastic day in general. The time we get to spend together is valuable to me. I love being a part of your day as much or as little as you will share with me. If this is your first time here with us here at Radical Joy, welcome. We're so happy you're here. If this isn't your first time at Radical Joy, welcome back. I am thrilled that something you have found in previous episodes you thought was valuable enough to come back for more. I hope you're having a conversation with your phone or your car or wherever it is you're listening, that something I'm talking about today hits you in just the right spot so that you feel moved to respond. Whether it's a tear or maybe a chill bump or it's a yeah or a, are you out of your mind? Whatever it is, I hope that we have come together today to have enough of an interaction that it moves you to reaction. If you're the type to leave a review, if you enjoy doing something like that or sharing these kinds of things, by all means, please do. Leave us a review, take a screenshot of your 5-star review and what you love about Radical Joy and let us know. We've got some stickers that we would love to send to you. You can put it on a water bottle, a journal, a laptop, a windshield, wherever it is you love to put a sticker. We'd love to send one to you. They're hot pink, they got my face on it, and chances are good it's going to have a cup of coffee in the hand. Regardless, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for sharing this time with me here at Radical Joy. Love y'all. The bottom line is, use your words, friends. Thank you for joining us again in this moment of Radical Joy. If this is your first time, we're so happy you're here. Take a moment to check out our archive. See if there's something else that fires you up, rekindles the joy in you. And hey, spread the word if you enjoyed it. We welcome reviews and messages. Let me know what you want to talk about. I rarely run out of things to say. So if there's something on your mind or heart, I want to hear from you. Don't forget, there is no shame in joy. I am not a therapist or a medical professional. If you're experiencing a mental health emergency, please call 911. This content and other content produced by CLW Studios and affiliated partners is not therapy, and nothing in this content indicates a therapeutic relationship. Any opinions of guests on this podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of James or CLW Studios. Please consult with your therapist or seek one in your area if you're experiencing mental health symptoms. Anything in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Learn more about James and CLW Studios. Follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave a review, and hey, we'll send you a sticker. Just send a screenshot and let us know where you want it sent. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday for another dose of Radical Joy. Love y'all.